Good morning. I have my coffee. Thanks for joining me. It's just going to be good. I'm going to talk about things that happened many years ago when I was just a young girl, 16, 17, 18 years old. But first, we want to start with 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, for I am the one who helps you. Isn't that marvelous? I mean, he helps us. He really does. So when I was just a young girl, 16 years old, I got married because I was tired of the farm and I didn't like taking care of my mom's kids. I threatened my dad if he didn't sign for me, I would get pregnant and I would have to get married. I was not nice because I had no intention of having sex without marriage. I like my new wig, as cute as it can be. I'm just featuring it, no flower. I got a little scarf here and my pearls. So anyway, it is snowing. And when we got up, there wasn't anything there, but by the time we got ready to go walking, we had 1 inch of snow, but it's a wet, sticky snow and you can walk in it. There's no ice. He said this would be a good day to take off and go down to Cordon and just enjoy the scenery. And I thought that was a good idea, but he's working for a while, but we might do it later. He's always thinking of something to do. Well, anyway, today I'm going to tell you about this young girl that got married that did know the Lord, honestly. But she didn't really live right by the rules all the time because I was lying to my daddy when I said I'd get pregnant if he didn't let me. But it fooled him. So he signed for me to get married at 16. I couldn't cook. I didn't know what. I had no idea what we was going to do. You know, Buddy had a job working at a bakery. So he was making some money. And so we rented a little one-room apartment that had a gas stove, like I showed some of them that we saw at the flea market. You know, you had to light it with a match, the oven and everything. You had an ice box where the ice man came around every 2 or 3 days and you get ice and to keep your milk cold and your food safe. We had an ice box and it had a thing underneath it where the water run and you had to go dump it every so often. It didn't run outside. So that was my job because I wasn't working. He was working. Later on I did get a job, but that was after he went in the Navy. So anyhow, we wasn't hardly making it, but I had a radio and I thought, oh, good, I can listen to my programs that Daddy won't let us listen to because the battery runs down at home. You know, because we didn't have an electric radio. We had a battery operated for a long time. And then finally when we got electric radio. But I had a radio. I bought one with what little funds I had. It didn't cost too much. And so I said, I'm going to listen to my programs. It didn't work out. You know why? Because even as we always went to bed with the chickens, you know. If it got dark, we had lamplight for the first 2 years we moved to the farm, which was miserable years, as I remember a lot of it. It was not much fun time. It really wasn't. It wasn't. Tell the facts, just the way they are. This is nice. So anyway, I turned that radio on and I was listening to the squeaking door, and there was a lot of good programs on that we didn't get to hear. And you know what? We'd go to bed and I'd say, I can just lay here and listen. And I'd wake up an hour or two later and the radio's still going and I didn't hear my stories because I slept right through them. So I'd go ahead and turn the radio off. When you go to bed with the chickens and you've been doing it for a long time, see, from 10 years to 6 years, I lived on the farm 6 years. I got married at 16. and left it. I was almost 17. My birthday was in September, and I got married June the 30th, 1950. Wow. You know, I've been married most of my life because I've not been single a lot, but I've been single some, and it wasn't fun. I didn't like living by myself, honestly, and you don't. A lot of people don't, but you have to make the best of it. That's all you can do. So anyhow, we was making it in this one little old room. This house was down on 5th Street, and what it was, they had cut it up into little apartments, and it had like 3 bathrooms, and they had one upstairs and 2 downstairs, and they could rent all the rooms out as a single little apartment. And so we had that one, but we wasn't hardly making it. So Buddy says, I'm going to join the Navy, and then I can send you money and keep you up, and we'll do good. I'm going to join the Navy. So he joined the Navy, and he was gone. So later on, I met a girlfriend. I got me a job. I had to have some money coming in now. So I got me a job at the Bobolink restaurant, which was owned by a very rich man. Excuse me, my nose itches so much. And they say, the old saying is, somebody's coming, you're going to have company. So I may get company after a while, who knows? Whatever happens, happens. Go with the flow and all that kind of stuff. So he joined the Navy, and he wasn't gone 3 weeks, 4 weeks, no time. He was in boot camp, San Diego, California. And here I'm working at the Bobolink. And what does he do? He hitchhiked, him and another guy, hitchhiked all the way from California. He said it took them about 3 days, but they hitchhiked. Back in the old days, in the 50s, you could put your thumb out and catch a ride. Most anybody would pick you up. But it was still scary to hitchhike because there's a lot of crazy people out there, even in 1952, 1951, during that time. So anyhow, him and his buddy hitchhiked home. And there he was home. What do you do now? Here, I mean, heavens to Murgatroyd. I said, you can't do this. Turn yourself back in. But no, he didn't. He didn't. So we got up hard living again, and so we moved in with my Aunt Mary and Uncle Norman. Now, Uncle Norman drove a taxi cab. They didn't have things like they have nowadays that ordinary people run taxi cabs, called Uber, which I found out about, which I didn't know much about. I've always had wheels since, let's see, Kathy and Karen, the twins, were born in California. And so they were born in 1954, if I'm right, yep. And so I bought me a car back in 54 because I had to have something. And he was overseas, Buddy was overseas. But that wasn't the only time he went AWOL. But we was living with Uncle Norman and Aunt Mary. And they finally, Uncle Norman said, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to turn you in myself. Well, he turned himself in. So they took him back. And you know what? He hitchhiked home again. 2 times he went AWOL. That's absent without leave. Now, back then, they gave people a dishonorable discharge. But did he get one? No such luck. They gave him all these psychological tests and said, when he went back the second time, because he had to turn himself in again. And he turned himself in, and they sent him to Great Lakes. And that's where they gave him all those psychological tests. They said, well, we're going to keep you. We think you'd make a good sailor. So they said, all we're going to do is put you in the brig, which was jail, for 6 months. So they put him in the brig. Well, while he was in the brig, I'm working at the Bobolink at this little restaurant that this rich daddy bought for this young man, which didn't know a bit more how to run a restaurant hardly than the man in the moon, but he had went to some cooking school. His daddy had sent him, so he taught us all how to cook everything on the grill and in a deep fryer. And I was talking about that salad like we used to fix for them. Just cut them off a hunk of lettuce and say, what kind of dressing do you want? And I didn't know that was a Cobb salad or whatever. But I learned a lot just the last couple of weeks about that kind of salad. But anyhow, that's the way it went. And I could cook a T-bone on that grill. And, you know, even right now, I've got a gas stove both houses. If I get a good piece of steak, guess where I cook it? Right on the, I turn the flames on and I put it on the stove and cook it. You know, you put it on a thing that kind of keeps it out of the fire, which you can get, that you take camping and stuff like that, and I got a couple of them. And I just do my steak with the fire under it. When I was pregnant with Kathy and Karen, and Buddy was overseas, I treated myself every week to one T-bone steak. And I had a gas stove out there, and I would cook that T-bone steak by myself and eat it. It was wonderful. And they still are if you can afford a T-bone steak. That's another question. And eggs. I made that eggnog yesterday. It took 8 eggs. Well, James makes pretty good money, so we could afford it. But it just makes me aggravated. But they're having that bird flu going around everywhere, and they're killing thousands of birds. And I saw on the news last night that it is transferable to cows. Next thing you know, milk's going to go $8 a gallon, and you know, I cannot live without milk. When we went to, you know, I dart around, and I don't care if I don't put a title. That just happens. But when we went to the West Indies, after Buddy got saved and did right by the Lord and was living a Christian life, we went to the West Indies for 3 weeks to hold meetings over there at the biggest church over there at St. Vincent, which is an island. And so I thought, what am I going to do for milk? What am I going to do to keep cool? Because I got to have a fan in the bedroom to run every night. And what in the world? And your little voice just whispered to me, I'll take care of that. I said, is that you, Lord? Because I wasn't thinking anybody would take care of it. Yes, I'll take care of it. So I didn't pack my fan in my suitcase, which I had a little fan that I could have blowed on my face. And don't you know, we got over there to the West Indies, and sitting right by the bed was a big floor fan. God took care of it. I said, Lord, you are so amazing. He just does miracles all the time. Sometimes people don't recognize the miracles that God is doing. But I sure recognized that one. And then milk was plentiful. So I had plenty of milk. I thought, have they got cows over there? They got cows, and they bring milk in from other places, I think. But there'd be a half gallon of milk in there. See, they furnished us with a place to stay and all the groceries. Here I've got completely off the subject. Where was I? Oh yeah, him going AWOL all the time. So I'm working at the bobolink, and I had a girlfriend that I moved in with me, and Wanda's already gone, of course. So many of my friends are gone. And Wanda died young, and she left 2 daughters. And I went over to see her where she lived over there on McKinley Street in New Albany, and I knocked on the door, and finally somebody came to the door, and it was one of her daughters, because they didn't marry, or one of them didn't. And I said, well, I just come to visit Wanda a little while. They said she passed away, and I didn't even know it because nobody told me. That's what happens a lot of times. We had grown apart because she was raising her 2 girls, and I was raising my family. But now me and Joyce, we stayed in touch. The one that's 92, that was in rehab. Last I heard, she was doing good. So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, going AWOL. So anyway, I decided one day, somebody wrote him a letter and said that I was running around on him because with some friends, I was going to square dancing out at the Pine Ridge. Everybody knows where the Pine Ridge is. It's been closed for years. But they just went out and square danced, and a whole bunch of them. and a bunch of us girls went, but his brother saw me out there, and he wrote him a letter, said, your wife's running around on you. So I got a letter from the pastor that visits in the brig. He wrote me a letter and said that if I was running around on Buddy, it was not a good thing to do. That's the bottom line. And I said, I'm not running around on him, but I didn't write him and answer him. I said, I'll fix that. I said, I'm going to take me a bus and go to Great Lakes. I'm going to go up there and straighten that whole thing out. I'm going to see Buddy face to face. So, on New Year's Eve night, well, before New Year's, I caught me a bus. I packed me a suitcase. I didn't have much. I packed my little hat, my little shoes that had heels about this high. I cannot wear high heel shoes. And my dress-up suit. My Aunt Shirley had given me a suit. It was green with a jacket and a skirt, a straight skirt, just straight all the way, and with a little pleat, one pleat in front. High class. And I was about 18 then, or maybe going on 19, but I dressed up and I caught that bus and I went to Great Lakes. So, but on the way to Great Lakes, you have to stop in Chicago. So when I got off the bus in Chicago, I thought, what am I going to do now? But as I stepped off the bus, and I've told this before, but like me and some of these others say, we'll just tell it again, because, you know, I had read about a book about white slavery, and that's what they called it back then in the 50s. My dad had bought a bunch of books at an auction, and I read anything I could find, and I found this book, and I read it how rich people, pimps, they call them, meet these buses and trains when these farm girls get off the train or the bus, and they say, we'll give you a place to stay till you can find a job, and you won't have to pay us a thing till you get you a job. But what they're really doing is they take you, they put you in a room, they lock you in, you can't get out, and they sell you for sex. And I read all about that, and I said, oh my goodness. And don't you know, this sophisticated woman and guy, gentleman, they said, well, hello there. Did you just get into town? I said, yes, I just got here. Well, I tell you what, they said, and there they said it. We help people, and being you're all alone, right? We help people, and if you want to come stay with us till you can get a job. I said, I read that in that sex slave book. Oh, what do you do? Well, you don't make them mad. They might grab you and drag you away. So I said, well, no, thank you. That's very kind of you. But they have a traveler's aid right over there, and I believe I'll just go over there and talk to them. And I just walked right off and left them. And they didn't say a word. And I went to traveler's aid, and they said, sure, we help people that come in and don't know what to do, and you need a place to stay. Well, we send the girls that come in from the country to the Young Women's Christian Society, and we sent them into the men's. So there's one just 2 blocks down. You can walk it, maybe only a block, not far. It's a big, tall building, about 17 stories. But here's your chit for you to spend the night. So they gave me a piece of paper. Didn't cost me anything. God took care of me. He went before me and made those crooked places straight for a silly girl. But I wanted to go tell Buddy and face to face that I'm not running around on you. I love you. I wish you would straighten up and fly right. And you're in jail now. And he was. So next morning, well, that night that I got in there, it was New Year's Eve night. And I didn't even realize, because we never celebrated New Year's in New Albany, Indiana. That, churches did, because you know what we used to do on New Year's Eve night? We'd go and stay till midnight, and then the kids would have breakfast and all. And I didn't do that much, because, like I say, I go to bed early. I still do. I wave my coffee around, take a sip now and then. So here I am, 17 floors up, with a Jewish girl was my roommate. We had a roommate. I had a roommate. And she was real interesting. You know, Mom always told us we pray for Israel. We pray for the Jews. They're God's chosen people, and they really are. So we do pray God bless Israel. And I heard Trump announce this morning that if Hamas does not turn those hostages loose, there's going to be to pay. So I don't use his word. But it's going to be bad if they don't turn them loose. He said not one or two or three, but all of them. God grant that prayer that they turn them loose and let them come home without bad things happening. In Jesus' name I pray. I pray for Israel. I pray for President Trump. I pray for those in command. And I have prayed for, and I always have done that. It didn't matter who was, a Democrat or Republican. And I prayed for President Biden a lot. I wish it had done some good. But I was always disappointed, I'm sorry to say. But that's life, and we just have to make the best of it. We don't have control. God is in control. We are not. So I'm praying God lets that all work out and let those hostages get out of there safe and sound without other people getting hurt. So there I am on the 17th floor, and it's New Year's Eve night, and the streets go crazy. So and it's midnight when we were looking out the window, and everything is going crazy. And we just enjoyed watching it from up above. And then we went to bed. And the next morning, I got on the bus, same bus station, and caught me a bus up to Great Lakes. And I went, and I can tell you the rest of that story later. But when I went there, I knew Buddy was in the brig. So, I was not smart, but the Lord helped me. And so when I went to Great Lakes, I caught me a bus out there, and I said, take me to headquarters. And that's where they took me. And I made it. I'm still here. And I've had an exciting life. God has went before me and made those crooked places straight when I didn't know what I was doing. And that's a fact, Jack. So that's the end of that story this morning. Maybe I'll pick it up tomorrow and tell it, so all you new people that have signed up can, without listening to the old ones, because I did not title any of them, and I may not title this one because it's different things go through my mind all the time. But I tell you what, I had some good times and I had some bad times, but the Lord always helped me, because I started praying a lot, and God does answer prayer. So God bless you. Walk that walk where Jesus would be pleased with you. Oh, let's see. Now, I was going to do something else. Now, what was it? Oh, yes. Happy birthday to that lady that's 92. I think her name was, I don't know, but happy birthday to those that are 92. I'm going to be 92 in September the 19th. And I feel good. And I love this new wig. God is good all the time. Well, here's my my pantyhose. I'm treating my feet as I talk to y'all. And my footy. So now you know intimate things about Grandma Lois. I like the knee highs. They keep my varicose veins under control down in my calf. And I have them, but they don't hurt me. I am blessed. Walk that path where Jesus would be pleased with you. Bye-bye.